Okay. So let me go on to listing presentations. And I'm trying to think like where I want to start with this. I guess maybe sharing the book, I guess, is helpful. So I'll start with this. Like someone asked me last week, I want to really clarify with how I use like those questionnaires. I do not send the seller questionnaire prior to meeting with the seller. That's not supposed to be like an intake form for me to learn about it. My process for going in is obviously like we set up the appointment, whatever. They get calendar invite for when we're meeting at the house. Great. I do, and I learned this like very early on from both my mom and really fabulous agents in my area. I love to go to the building department and just get everything I possibly can on their property. This way, if I find out something, that maybe would be really helpful to them, I can come to them with that information. So verifying all the taxes, verifying as much as possible going in there so that they don't think I'm just blind to, their listing. And I know this might seem like an easy thing and we all say, oh yeah, we all do it. We don't all do it. And it's important to make that just like a staple of your presentation, because those are the parts of it. Those are the pages that they're going to be really interested in. And sometimes we've caught the taxes that they're being over assessed on their property. And we can come to them with like a whole entire grievance process. And they come to us like, my God, this is so helpful. And maybe they're not ready to list that year. So maybe they want to go through with that, or maybe that makes their property a little bit more valuable because we can get that grievance process started for the buyers who are coming in. So this is like, you guys are probably seeing consistency. I try to come in with value. Do I care what dress I wear and all this kind of stuff? Like maybe a little bit, but not really. And I think this is just, again, where brokerage is going. It's like a lot of the social media. What do I look like? What does my book look like? What does this look like? At the end of the day, can you sit down and sell my house in the smoothest way for the highest price, making this as painless as possible for me? That's what I'm looking for. So lead with that when you're preparing any kind of materials. If you have like a 40-page listing presentation and you don't know what 25 of those pages are, take them out. I'd much rather people go in with 10 pages of value than a ton of fluff. Also, with people being eco-conscious, they're going to stop you and say, why did you just waste 40 pages? I've also had that happen to me. And I'm like, noted, got it, get like compostable something. So that's something I really like to do. And then like when I get there, I feel like I have the book. I ask them to take me around for like a tour of the house first and foremost, like tell me why you love the house so much, take a tour, get to know the house. And then we kind of sit down. This is probably like what a lot of people do. I'm just giving you all the insight from what I do. And I think just kind of start talking to them about it. If there's anything at the building department we did find, I'd like to present that first. I also think, I don't know, some people probably disagree with me. They're like, okay, here's why we're the best team. Here's why this. Like a lot of the times, if someone's already called me there, it's like either they're just interviewing us and this is a formality, or I'm up against like 3 other people. I like to ask if there's nothing from the building department, I like to ask like, what's your situation? Find out all of that, like just find out as much as possible. Go through that med C with them. That's like the biggest conversation part of this, probably more so than I could probably even share with you guys about what's in my book, which I will, but it's this whole med C process. So Chirag has gone over this with you guys, I think already, but motivations, expectations, disappointments, and concerns. So trying to lead your conversation through that. And probably the most helpful question I ask is like, what is your expectation of an agent in this transaction? Because that answer is going to be different to everybody. And if you were to sit down and, you didn't ask those questions and you just started through the book, by the end of the 25 minutes, when you're done talking about the stuff that you care about, they're like, awesome. I couldn't care less about any of what you just said. Here's my situation. I'm like, great, fabulous. Like, let me put my foot in my mouth. So I've really learned, like, why am I here? Like tell me why I'm here. Tell me how I can be a great agent to you. I can be a chameleon. I'm very multifaceted. We have different ages on our team. My mom has the experience. I have something else that you guys all seem to like. So I try to share as much of that as possible, but like, tell me really like, what are you looking for? What's really important to you? If they have interviewed other agents, I think people sometimes shy away from that question. Like, well, why are you interviewing me today? If you've already interviewed two other people before that, have those conversations. When you lead with like that genuine part to you, which I was having a really hard time with a deal last week. And I was so nervous to talk to one of my clients about what was going on, because even though I had no control over it, I felt very badly. And that's something I'm working on. And I just told her, I'm like, I care so much. And it's really great. And I'm so happy you have me on your side, but it's also really hard for me to care that much too. And it can be very taxing. We sat down, had coffee for almost an hour. She knows my age. She knows everything. And this is a $2 million property, by the way. She interviewed 5 of the other top agents in the market and chose us. And here I am being like, oh, I care so much, blah, blah. And like, she was so receptive to it. And she said, she's like, this is why you're going to be a rock star. This is why I've already given your name out to 10 other people, because no one else cares enough to put their ego aside and just be honest and be vulnerable. And I think if you meet people with that in these presentations, it's going to be very well received. And if it's not my client. Like, I'm the first person to say that. If someone's like only going to care about price and care about this and care about that, like, yeah, can I meet them there? But at the end of the day, I have walked away from certain presentations and certain listings that I've been offered that would have been a great opportunity, because when I went in there, also the stuff that I was there to learn about the client, I didn't like. So know when to walk away. So I think going through that whole Med C, that expectation one, the motivation, obviously, you probably already talked about in like that initial conversation. That expectation though, and that disappointment, like when you can learn in that, there's a really good chance you're not even going to use the book that I'm about to give to you, because you'll learn everything you need to in that point, and you're both going to know at that point, is this going to be the right matchup or not? And that's when Corinne started talking about the restaurant. And I'm like, why am I even here anymore? There's no point, you know? So that's kind of how I try to go into these listing presentations. And I think that's why we win a lot of them. We're genuine. That's who we are. And we try to get that to come across as quickly as possible. Maybe there's another coach who would tell you differently and to talk about the facts, talk about all that, but like, that's just not who I am. That's not how I lead. So I think focusing on that Med C, if I know there's a few role play groups going on, if you guys can get into those and just really, really, really try to practice it. I practice the Med C and I teach you guys the Med C. I sit in my car, I say it again, say it again, say it again, voice record myself, listen to it back, say, why would you ever say that? Don't go down that rabbit hole. Don't open up that can of worms. You know, it's so helpful to hear yourself say these things over and over again. And the more you rehearse them, the better they're going to come across there. And the more organic the question is going to come out, so that if they do say to you, oh yeah, we just interviewed 2 other agents, that can kind of roll off the tongue. Oh, and so what caused you to still, ask Corinne and I to come here today? What did you love about our website? What did you, where did you find us again? Oh, they came through Leslie. Oh, great. Yeah. Oh, we love Leslie. She's whatever. So, Leslie's like, hey. So I think those are kind of like the things to focus on in there. That conversation is going to be everything. That's really perfecting your listing presentation. That's perfecting it. So if you're all trying to come here to get like my book and you can get it, and I'm going to give it all to you. But if you're not focusing on that, that's the skill part of it. This is just the deliverable. If you do it right, you could take that book and walk right out and just exchange it for an exclusive right to sell. That's how I see it. So that is what I like to do in there. Let me try to get up though a book so you guys can see it. And any comments, anything, like if you guys want to, I'm sure I just have been talking a lot today, but feel free to.
Yeah, I agree, but I feel I don't do listing presentations. I feel everybody's talking about, you have to do this elaborate listing presentations, but for me, it's a conversation. Sounds like, oops, I might be doing something wrong.
No, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think a lot of people will tell you this business is not like, this business is how you convert clients is by becoming human with them. It's not by only talking about business. And I was talking to one of my coaching clients yesterday too. It's like, you don't need to call and just talk about a CMA that you just sent them. Did you get my CMA? Did you get my CMA? Hey, how are the kids? How's this? How's that? Like, that's how I try to have all my conversations. They know I do real estate. Everybody knows Kate sells real estate. If you need me to help sell, I'm here. But I try to shy away from a lot of that part of the conversation too. And then there's a portion of it that, of course, we're talking about the data and I'm going through all of that with them. But that's definitely an important part to think about in that. All right, let me get this up here. Let's do this one. Okay. So this is our book, so to speak. Okay. So front page, 24 Ridge Street, Katona, picture of us, blah, blah, blah. Same page you just saw on the other thing. This one, whatever. Seller testimonials, great. And then Nobody knows north of NYC like we do. One thing I do tell people is some people get caught up on this page. So if you're going to a certain, like if I'm selling in Katona, yes, nobody knows Katona like Kate, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there are people that know Katona like me, like the mayor or something. I don't know. So I think it's kind of like a weird thing, but you can say it if you want. Nobody knows Katona like we do. Nobody knows Scarsdale like we do. Nobody knows Bronxville like we do. So change that if you feel like it's going to be a client who's going to get really hung up on it. We just like to do north of New York City because we do cover a wide area. We'll put in some of like our notable sales in here and blah, blah, blah. Team is dedicated to selling your home. Great. Robert's thing, a little bit about this. I keep it in because sometimes like you ever get like that, like one out of like every 5 clients that actually wants to learn a little bit more about Compass. So this is really helpful to be able to go in, but understand what these pages are saying. You don't just like want them to be like, oh, sorry, wait, what are they talking about here? What's digital reach? What's international reach? How do you guys get that? You know, be up to date on that. Search engine, sharing your home globally, where they're searching. Yeah, these are all just the Compass pages. Maybe they're different. This is like our Westchester one. I like this because it shows where the offices are and it has a map. So that's helpful. And then step-by-step plan. You have that. I actually really like the way Compass did it, so I didn't touch it. You have this thing. Like a lot of this is just like the Compass thing in here. This is where I edited it for us. You guys may have seen this last year if some of you were here last year, but the power of photography. 24 Ridge Street, actually, the reason why they originally called us 2 years ago was because they saw my postcard with the photography we had on it. So that's why they originally called us. So I put these, like some of the listings we've taken over from other brokerages that didn't sell. So I take this, put our picture in, share the success of it on each of these. So I think I do 4 of them. Yeah. So I'll put 4 of those in there. And this actually people really like to see. They're like, wow, it does make such a difference. So it's just like a little nice kudos to us in there. This page I love because this is where I start to talk about why pricing is so important. And this is my segue into reviewing the comps with them. So keep this page in there and understand what it's saying. Darker part is like sooner. So you can show them like how much the peak activity falls off after it. I think that's really important now in the market because I mean, at least in our market, if it doesn't sell in the first weekend, it's probably overpriced. So putting that in there, being able to have that conversation is really helpful. Coming soon, blah, 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 multi, channel thing. Great, great. Insights. Sometimes I'll print out an insights report from another listing. I'll attach it. Like know the client though. Like if I'm going in and I'm meeting with like an older client who's selling their house, who's like I have like 80-year-old client. Like I'm not going to bring this to her and say, oh my God, check out these cool insights. She's gonna be like, Kate, I don't know what the hell this is. Like what, I don't care, sell my house. But if I'm going to like a millennial client, I think they're probably going to really want to know this. And he or she's going to be very data driven like I am in that. So know the client going in there. And then complete listing paperwork, blah, blah, blah. Immediate next steps, continue to monitor it, launch the property. Great, great, great. So that's the book I have. Really I take out some Compass parts that don't make sense to me or, our team. Like I don't talk about bridge loans in here or anything. And then I put in like our pictures of those other listings. That's a great talking point. And then the next thing I'll do, because I just talked about price and we kind of started talking about that, that's when I'll go into my collection of homes. Remember how like I told you guys with the CMA, I don't do a CMA, I do the collection. That's how I share my CMA. This is where I'll bring up the collection on my computer. Again, know your client. If you don't feel like that's the best thing to do with them, bring a CMA. That's totally fine. I've just shared with you guys before that I think it's a lot of information and I think it's a lot of data. It's a very large can of worms, if you will, to open up and leave with them to have them to go through. So I think that collection is much easier. I share it with them. We talk through everything. Most of the times, like we'll decide on a price unless we're like 6 months out from listing and they're just early with us. But we both leave feeling pretty good on a small range of where we're going to end up listing. And then I'll share the seller collection with them on the spot, but I don't share that with them ahead of time because I don't want them to, see my price and automatically be like, we can just cancel the meeting. I'm like, let me have a chance to explain to you why. So that's kind of where I go with that. And then the end of it, we discuss. I don't know what kind of questions can come up. And that's kind of it. That's kind of the whole structure there. But yeah, any questions? Sorry, I know I'm like talking a lot at you, but this is recorded, so you guys can go back if you're like losing me. Tiffany, was that helpful at all for you?
Yes,
Okay.
your basically looks the same as mine, and I did the same
Yeah.
thing. I took out a lot of Compass stuff that I felt like was boring to most
Yeah.
people, and have the same, like, about me, about my team, about Compass, and those, like, the graph page and stuff. And then I have a couple other, I can't remember what they are, but little things that I added in very similar. But I love your nobody knows Houston or wherever,
Yeah.
like I do. And then you said, do you print this and take it, or do you?
Yeah, I'll print this and give them a copy. I think it's nice. I think a lot of people show up with something, so I want to show up with something. Oh, we also always show up with a little gift, like a hand soap or something simple like that. We got like these really fun like dish towels a couple months ago, like in the fall. So like I always try to grab fun things like that, and then we give them like a little gift when we show up. Nothing too big where it looks like we're trying to bait you into working with us, but just like a little something, a little takeaway. We don't like to show up empty-handed. So we'll give that. And then sometimes I feel like most of the time I will grab just like our folder with all of like our brochures and like an example of actual printed materials that we give to people. I also will introduce them, if it feels like it's going to be going in the right direction, I'll introduce them to the form, like the seller form, say I'm going to be asking you these questions. I'm going to be, just double checking everything at the building department if we had a conversation about something that didn't look right, and kind of give them those next steps of really trying to show my value as quickly as possible. So I think that's it. But the seller collection with the CMA is very helpful, because I feel like we get to, there's something visually about like if somebody wants 1.5 and I'm trying to price their house at 1.3 and all the comps are like 1.295, 1.350, 1.3, 1.32, and then they ask for 1.5, I'm kind of like, visually, did you see 1.5 there? And that's very helpful to them rather than like that big book. The CMA is great. And I mean, if we all sat down looking at that big CMA book, we would have a field day with it because we know what we're doing. With them, they take the data points and completely misinterpret them. That's why I like to give them the data points to look at and tell a story that way. But yeah. All right. We feel good. Let me go. Sorry, I haven't even checked this thing yet. You may need to get permission to use other photos. Sure. I mean, yes, I'll say yes because I'm on the call. But I don't know if they're ever getting my book.
Some
Like,
of those Compass stats were from like
I know, we
2020
can
though,
get-
right?
Yeah,
Why
the
are they so
Westchester ones
outdated?
haven't updated in a little bit.
Yeah, you just stick them in anyway.
Yeah, I don't really care. But again, when I say like no one reads this book, like I'll go through it and I pinpoint like some of those pages, but they're trying to get to what they care about. Do they like us? Check.
Right.
Or no check. I don't know. Do they like us? And then if they like us, then we've gotten to the seller collection where that's really where they want to talk about the price.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. You've given me a format.
Good. That's what I'm here for.
'Cause I usually don't have to do presentations, like, because I know people, once I go in, it's like I know I have the listing, but some people, depending on, the little tougher ones, the one that are interviewing several clients, several realtors, you have to get in and really look superb.
Yeah. I mean, especially with like other Compass agents too. I say this all the time. Like I know for a fact that other people are bringing in that CMA, binded, and I'm doing it in a collection. If there's anybody else on here from Westchester, great, do that too. But can you share the information as well as me? Did you go to the building department? Did you check everything? Did you find the same things we did? Like at the end of the day, there's not going to be a ton that differentiates us between Compass agents. It's not like the Compass part of it. It's like, it's us, it's our experience, it's who we are as people. And that's like why I led this a little bit before. Like people are just looking to work with people who they like. This is not revolutionary. So They might just like me more than the other Compass agent, or they might just like the other Compass agent more, and that's totally fine. That's great. It's their house. List with who you feel most comfortable with. And oh, another thing, I don't have anybody sign the listing agreement on the spot. I leave them with a blank copy of it because I think it's very, and again, like, sorry if I'm the worst coach and you've heard differently. If you feel like you want to walk out of there with it signed, go for it. It doesn't feel organic to me. So I leave them with a blank one and they just get a DocuSign that night. No one has ever come back to me and said, oh, we actually want to think about it. So, because if you really think about it, it's like, okay, so you just locked people in, like what other coaches I feel like would say is like, okay, so you need to lock them in before you leave. And then what? Like someone's going to call you the next morning. Let's say they really, really, really regret that decision. You're not going to let them out. You're going to really wait the next 12 months. You're going to be like super harsh from the whole start. Like that's my whole thing with it. If someone wakes up the next morning and says, I don't want to work with you, I'm like, okay, don't like, what am I going to say? Work with me. You have to work with, no, like sign the DocuSign. I don't want someone waking up with regret saying I felt really forced.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, if you guys feel good, I'll figure out, I mean, I'll send you this listing presentation booklet if you guys want it. I can send you that. Do you
I
ever-
have to say that I one time lost a listing because they were actually forced to sign a listing agreement with someone else. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to be part of that. It was
Yeah.
sad though. I felt very sad for
Yeah.
those homeowners.
Yeah. Like, I'm not like
It's-
a toxic, like, I don't think any of us sitting on here are
No.
like toxic people. I'm not going to like,
No.
force somebody into this. This should be kind of fun. Let's have fun together. Let's list your house and make a ton of money right now. That's like kind of how I go into this.
Why would you want to work with someone like that doesn't want to work with you?
Yeah.
Why waste your time?
Yeah. That's kind of like always, okay, so it makes me feel like you guys feel the same way. It was like, because I've personally heard from a lot of coaches, not Chirag obviously, but like other coaches who say like, you don't walk out with it unless it's signed. I'm like, oh my God, like let people breathe for a second. Like these one clients I'm talking about in like Katona, they've built this house, they're owner architects. This house is their dream house, labor of love. Can I let them sleep on it before they decide who they want to sell with? Like their labor of love for the past 22 years, where both their daughters, they brought them home from the hospital and they grew like, no, I'm not going to say like, sign it right now. No, not my style. Let someone else get it then. I don't really care. Okay, so I'll send you guys listing presentation. I'm going to work with CSC to figure out the best way to get you guys that Canva template. I think maybe I can send you a link to it and then you can like make a copy. I think that's what I'm going to do. And is there anything else I need to give you guys, or is that it? I think that's it. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for sticking with me. I think a lot of us actually stayed on until 1 o'clock. So thank you. Thank you. I think we're pretty much caught up now. So I'll see you guys next week on whatever's scheduled for. And I think I'm also on Playbook next week with Chirag on Tuesday. So you guys might see me there as well. All right. Bye guys. Have a good one.
You too.